Resident Evil is back, this time on Netflix for a new series, so let's see if it's worth your time. Hey everybody, my name's Justin here. I try to watch everything that hits theaters and on streaming services like Netflix. If you guys are like me, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. 14 years after a deadly virus caused a global apocalypse, Jade Wesker fights for survival in a world overrun by infected creatures while being haunted by her past, her father, and what happened to her sister Billie. I really don't know much about Resident Evil. I've seen my brother-in-law play a little bit of the game. I've seen, I think, 3 of the Resident Evil films, so don't quiz me on any of the Resident Evil lore. I will fail. But going into this, I heard that it was just a total reboot, and there was little connection to some of the games. And I did some research, and I found that Albert Wesker is a character in the video game, and he's played by Lance Reddick. This is essentially separated into 2 different stories. One part of the story involves Billie and Jade Wesker, twins, as they are starting to uncover their father's mystery, working for Umbrella, and things are slowly starting to come to light about the company and what is happening with one of the sisters, Billie, and then seeing how the 2 sisters are kind of working together to protect each other, and how Albert Wesker is kind of covering things up. And then the other half of the story is set 14 years after that, where Jade is now an adult and she is in the middle of this apocalypse, everything that had happened 14 years prior, and in New Raccoon City. And so she's fighting to survive, killing off all of these creatures, and there's connections to both. One part of the story I found to be really entertaining. The other part of the story I found to drag and be very boring. I know Resident Evil video games to be like a survival horror game, and part of the story matches that tone. The 14 years later, when Jade is an adult, that is when the survival horror aspect of it comes out. And it's bloody, and the visuals are good, and there are some really menacing creatures and some really great action scenes. And I was really involved with a lot of that. If the whole series could have been like that, it's because there were some really epic moments along the way. Stunning visuals for some of these creatures that I'm sure that could have been in the Resident Evil games. But I like that it is dealing with the aftermath of what had happened with Umbrella and everything with her sister. You feel that trauma. By connecting it to the past, you see how she is affected by everything that had happened to her. And so we see Jade as a confident, strong character, and she is protective of her daughter and her husband. She may be separated from them, but a lot of the scenes truly feel gory. There is some sequences that come middle half of the series that were surprisingly very bloody. I just wasn't expecting that because of the initial setup with the split story. But when we do get into these creatures that are affected by this virus, I thought it was horrifying, and I really wanted more of that. Whenever we got that darker tone, that darker lighting, I was so invested in that. I thought it was just really fun, and I could see some people that played the games might like those moments, because it does feel like a survival horror film, and we have her fighting off all of these creatures, and that's what I think Resident Evil is. But then the first part of the story, involving the company and the mystery coming to light and the kind of the business aspect of it, reminds me of some of the Resident Evil films I saw, and the Umbrella Corporation, how secretive they are. That is where I find the story to drag. I really did not buy into the relationship between the 2 sisters. They had a hot and cold relationship, Jade and Billie. Billie was affected by something, and it kind of separated her from her sister, but at times they worked together. The relationship was just kind of off and on at times, and it really was inconsistent. But when we learn a little more of Albert Wesker and his involvement with the company, it's starting to lead into the story 14 years later. And it just takes its time. the pacing for it is so slow. It focuses on them in school and bullies and the company and how she's feeling about all of that. Those are moments that I think work because it does affect the story 14 years later, but it moves at such a sluggish pace that it feels like it's not affecting those moments, and the moments are truly separated from the two. And I see the intentions behind it and how it's supposed to play into those moments later on, but it's just dragging so much and I'm not interested in it that at times it's hard to get involved in those sequences, because it goes from them talking, them in high school, and them expressing their feelings, and then immediately it's them fighting off these creatures. So it goes from very calm, and then it goes to action-packed. At times it's hard to adjust to those moments 14 years later because of how that story drags, and it just feels like it's moving at such a sluggish pace that it's just so hard to be invested in all of that. I think the acting's pretty good in here. I like Lance Reddick. He seems very confident and stoic, and he's very mysterious. I like that role for him, but I've heard that it's just something completely different in the video games. And I like the two sisters as they start to move forward in the story. There's some more emotion to these characters. But what works the best is Jade as an adult and how she's affected by the past and how it shapes her in the future, and how confident she is, how confident and strong she is. I really like that character. If we could explore more of the story in 14 years later, I think it would have been a completely different series. Maybe having one series about the 14 years prior and the setup of Umbrella, and then do a second season with the series later on. Might have been something completely different. I haven't played the games. I've watched a few of the movies, so I don't know much of the connections, and I don't know if it's faithful to the video games. But from what I've heard, it seems to be a bit of a letdown. Half of the series is a letdown, half of the series is enjoyable, and I'm just split on it. I think some of it sucks, some of it's pretty fun to watch, and I could just fast forward through a lot of the earlier sequences, and I could just get some of the action with the creatures and the big visuals. I think that would have been just so... I'm fine with doing that. Honestly, if I ever wanted to rewatch it, I probably would just do that, because there are some bloody moments, there's some big creatures, it's epic, it's fun. That's all I wanted from this series. The other half, I just could not care about. So before I give you my score for Resident Evil on Netflix, make sure to check out my channel. Here I do movie reviews, trailer reactions, ranking videos, tier lists, all that fun movie related content that you see on YouTube. I do it all here, so hit that subscribe button and get it all in one spot. I'm going to go ahead and give Resident Evil a C+. Thank you guys for checking my review for Resident Evil on Netflix. Have you guys seen the new series based on the popular video game series? Let me know what you thought about in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content like this. My name is Just Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.